It's another edition of Time About the Movies. We're wrapping up October 1991 with October 25th. We got 6 movies to look at today, so let's not waste any time. Let's just jump right on into it. And we're going to start off with our first movie here, the sequel to last year's big hit, House Party. We have House Party 2, aka House Party 2, The Pajama Jam. Yeah, kind of like with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, this was kind of rushed out in theaters after the success of the original House Party. Except while Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 is a fun, nostalgic, guilty pleasure of a sequel, this one really is a pretty mediocre sequel. I mean, it's a pretty lame sequel, mostly because the Hudlins are not back here. Reginald Hudlin's not involved in this, unfortunately. They brought in new writers, new directors, and they just kind of rushed this one out. They just basically said, we're just going to do the same thing we did with the first movie, except we're going to have these kids we're going to have these kids playing college now, and not as high school students. And it's just like, I mean, it's still pretty much the same movie, and if you don't have the same people involved that made the first movie so good, even though you have the same people acting wise, like Kid and Play are still here, Martin Lawrence is still here. They add in Queen Latifah, not Martin Lawrence, Tisha Campbell's in here. Whoopi Goldberg has a cameo in here as a professor. Full Force is in here. But really, when you look at the movie as a whole, it's definitely a retread of the first movie. It's not as good as the first movie, and very rarely did I laugh at this movie. There were a couple of moments that were just like, okay, that was pretty good, but yeah, for the most part, this movie is pretty much a lackluster sequel, but I mean, at least it's better than some of the other sequels that came after this, because there was another movie that there was a third film in '94, and then there was a direct-to-video fourth film. But at least this one had some moments in there that were kind of decent, so I guess I'll give it that. So that's House Party 2 for you. Let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is John Hughes' Curly Sue. Hard to believe this is actually the last movie that John Hughes directed. I mean, he would continue to work, obviously, writing scripts for many movies in the 90s, but in terms of his directing movies, this was the last movie he ever did as a director, and really, I don't know why that is. This movie is not that bad that it would have ruined his career altogether, but as far as this movie goes, it's definitely not as good as a lot of his other works. It's definitely the lesser of his movies. But like I said, it's not a bad movie. In fact, it's a very harmless movie. There is a lot of heart to this film. The young kid who plays the title character, Allison Porter, is very good here. Jim Belushi is very good here as well, as is Kelly Lynch. I just don't think the jokes really worked as well as I think they wanted it to, and I think they tried a little too hard to copy. You got the sense that they were trying to copy the Home Alone formula again, because Home Alone was such a big success the year before, and then they put it into this movie, and maybe that's why John Hughes was like, okay, I'm getting out now, because I know that every movie I'm going to be involved in now has to have some kind of aspect from Home Alone, because Home Alone had a lot of influence on a lot of comedies in the 90s. Most not very good. Some of them were good, so. But this movie is, I don't know, I think it's just okay. It's a movie that, I'm glad I saw it. I'm glad I got some elements out of it that I did really enjoy, but it's nothing that I'd want to watch over and over again. It's not a movie that I feel like I want to watch as many times as I want to do with John Hughes' other works, but it is what it is. It could have been a whole lot better, but as it is, it's just a passable film. It's a film that really could have been a whole lot better, but as it is, it's just okay. So that is Curly Sue. Let's go ahead and move on to the next movie here as I get it off of the page here, and that is Demi Moore and Jeff Daniels in the comedy The Butcher's Wife. Here's another movie that probably had more potential to it than what actually is shown on screen. The Butcher's Wife, which is a movie that Demi Moore herself has said long after the movie came out that she regretted making this film. She only did it to increase her fee after the success of Ghost. And sadly, it definitely shows in the movie here. I think it's trying way too hard to be kind of like The Splash for the 90s. But except with this time, instead of Demi Moore being a mermaid, she's a woman that comes from the skies, I guess. It's a weird movie. It's a very bizarre, weird movie that probably had a good idea to it. There was probably some good is some good ideas, some good interesting pieces that could have been made for an interesting film, but it just doesn't show up on screen. And it's not that Demi Moore isn't trying; she's doing the best she can, and it's just that the plot gets so confusing. Like, you don't really know who's supposed to be what, and how the person that finds her the first time is so okay with her trying to get a relationship with Jeff Daniels' character. It's a weird movie. It's a movie that really I don't think they really had a good idea of what they wanted to do. They felt like this is a film that they wanted to just rush out there and hope for the best for it, but it just didn't work all the way through. And it's a shame too, because it's another movie where I could see a lot of potential with it. There's a lot of potential here. The people are trying, but it's just like the script just isn't that good. It's a movie that unfortunately fails to really get going, and it really does show in the final product itself. So yeah, that's The Butcher's Wife. Let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is Chuck Norris starring in The Hitman. Well, if you've definitely seen Chuck Norris's work before in film and the stuff he did afterwards, this is pretty much what you'd expect from a Chuck Norris movie. If you go in there expecting to just see over-the-top action, nothing really making a whole lot of sense, but you understand that the people that behind this pretty much know that that's exactly what they're doing, you can find a lot to enjoy in these movies. I mean, this is another one of those movies that's so bad, it's good. It's one of those guilty pleasure type of films that if you like the Chuck Norris memes and how in every movie he's kind of playing the same character and it's just like crazy over the top action, you pretty much get what you expect from this movie. And on that note, I can't really complain about that so much, because sometimes Chuck Norris can be very good, can be very fun to watch, especially the many clips of Walker Texas Ranger, and it's definitely here. It is definitely here in this particular film. So I can't really say anything too bad about it, except that it's a so bad it's good type of movie. It's another guilty pleasure film from Chuck Norris. What else can you really say? So, with that said, though, let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is George A. Romero and Dario Argento's Two Evil Eyes. So, Two Evil Eyes is essentially an anthology film. It's trying to be another Creep Show or Twilight Zone, the movie for a new generation. And you have two stories here: the facts in the case of Mr. Valdemar, with Adrienne Barbeau in it, as well as Tom Atkins, E.G. Marshall, and then you have The Black Cat, which is, by the way, the facts in the case of Mr. Valdemar is directed by George A. Romero, and The Black Cat is directed by Dario Argento. And that one, you have Harvey Keitel, you got John Amos, Sally Kirkland, Martin Balsam, Julie Benz. So there are some notable names in here, and it felt like they were trying to do kind of a new Tales of, something like I said, something on the lines of Creepshow, or something like they did the year before with Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, which in fact Stephen King was actually considered to direct one of the segments, as well as John Carpenter, but they unfortunately couldn't make it work out, and it was originally supposed to be 4 segments, but then it was dropped down to 2 segments. But I mean, for what you get from George A. Romero and Dario Argento, this is actually pretty much what you'd expect from them. It's a movie that, kind of like with the Chuck Norris movies, you go into them knowing what you're going in for, and there are some legitimately terrifying scenes in here. But yeah, for the most part, it's a good horror film. It's not a great horror film. It's not going to be something on the same level as say the original Creepshow or the Twilight Zone movie, but it is what it is. It works fine for what it is. So, if you like George A. Romero's work, if you like Dario Argento's work, you're definitely going to find a lot to enjoy in Two Evil Eyes. So, with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the last movie, and that is Mike Leigh's Life is Sweet. So Mike Leigh is, of course, the director who would later go on to do such films as Secrets and Lies, Topsy Turvy, All or Nothing, Vera Drake, Happy Go Lucky, Mr. Turner. Some notable indie films, but nothing that really branched out big time for him, except, of course, Secrets and Lies, which was a big Oscar contender that year. But if you've seen Mike Leigh's movies, again, this is something that you can definitely tell is a movie from him. It has that same similar style to him. If you've seen a lot of his movies, you're definitely getting it from here. A lot of really good performances all around in this particular film, with Alison Steedman, Jim Broadbent, Jane Horrocks, Timothy Spall, Claire Skinner. And it's a nice it's a nice little drama that they have here. It's a very good film, very solidly acted. Music overall is very good. Nice cinematography. Just a pretty good film all around. A really good, enjoyable film. I'd say definitely check it out if you can. Life is Sweet by Mike Leigh. And so with that said, that wraps up another edition of Time About the Movies. Next time we meet, we'll jump into November of 1991 with 5 movies, including Wes Craven's latest film, The People Under the Stairs. We also have the sequel, Highlander 2, The Quickening.
What a title.
We will also have Billy Bathgate with Dustin Hoffman, Nicole Kidman, and Bruce Willis. We also have The Year of the Gun, and also 29th Street. So we're jumping into a brand new month next time around. We're getting close to the end of 1991, and soon we'll be on 92. So with that said, thank you very much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, check out the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and I'll see you folks tomorrow for another episode. So thank you for watching, I'll see you next time, and until then, as always, take care.